name's Leighton Schubert. Thanks again for letting us come over to Grimes County. It's good to always be here. I've been here numerous times, meeting with people, talking with y'all, introducing myself. I was born in Brenham, Texas, and raised in Snook, Texas. I played a lot of basketball in Iola, Texas growing up. They were in our district, actually. We won, they won. It kind of goes back and forth a little bit as it goes. My mom's family is from the Fayette and Austin County area. So I'm born and raised in District 13. I'm a product of District 13. My entire family is in District 13, so I understand the district. But not only do I understand the district, I have a unique level of experience that I bring to the table. I've worked for every level of government, from federal down to county. I worked for the U.S. State Department in Washington, and then they sent me to Ecuador. I worked in the embassy in South America for a while. I worked for Harris County in legislative relations after law school. So we drafted bills, worked them through the process, and then I said, let's move back home and start a small town law firm. And it's been wonderful to be back in District 13. We have a small town law firm in Caldwell, Texas, where I currently live with my wife. We focus on a couple things, real estate and wills and probate. I am not a litigator, I'm what's called a transactional attorney. I also own a title company in town, so I do the business side of law. And what we were getting out and telling everybody around the district is, we've got a deep knowledge of the district, good experience that we can go to Austin and hit the ground running and work hard for y'all. My sole job as a state representative, as I see it, is to be your voice. I will be the voice of District 13. But I cannot do that without doing this, sitting down, talking with you, getting to know the issues that are important to you. I believe the solutions do not come from Austin. I believe the solutions come from right here in the district. And the only way I can do that is sit down and talk with you. So my promise to you, if I'm the next state representative, is going to be accessible, I'm going to be accountable, and we are going to sit down and talk about the issues together, work a strategy, bring that to Austin to make District 13 better. Thank y'all for coming out tonight. We look forward to getting to know y'all and hearing some of the questions. Thank you.
I am Becky Berger, and I am a geologist. I went to the University of Oklahoma because that's where my parents lived at the time. And so my degree is in geology. I have a minor in engineering, a minor in economics, and I've been lucky enough to be in industry where I can use all of it, which isn't always true of people who get a degree these days. But I would love to be your representative. I believe that this district has got enormous potential, but it also needs enormous protection. And I have been up here several times discussing the bullet train, the tollway, and the transmission lines. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because there's regular things going on in Texas, like water issues, there's infrastructure issues, there's education issues, and I am an issue-based person. I represent Senate District 18 at the State Republican Executive Committee. I've been there for 5 years. This is the middle of my third term. I can stay one more term if I want to, but I also believe that it's very important to involve more people. The more people that are involved, the more people that are knowledgeable, the more people that participate, the better our country is, the better our state is, and the better our government will be. So if I were elected to this position, I would be seeking someone to fill that position for Senate District 18. I also want you to know that I will be accessible. I live in a very small town. If something goes wrong at my house and I'm working in Houston or I'm working in Zapata, I get a phone call from my neighbor saying, the police are coming to check your house because we saw a guy running through the pasture. That's great. That's the kind of life I want, where my neighbors know where I am, when I'm not there, and they're going to watch out for me. Well, I want to be that person who watches out for you when I'm in Austin. Because let's face it, folks, if you own a water well, an oil well, your house, a ranch, how about if you have a small business? We all know what government can do to you. And the fact is, I want to be that person that stands between you and bad government.
But our third candidate tonight is Carolyn Cerny Bilski.
Well, it is nice to be here. Thank you very much. This is a very attentive audience because you have major crisis issues going on in Grimes County. I have knowledge of your commissioners. I have knowledge. I talked to the new judge this morning on the phone quite a while, about 7:30, and I am very interested in being there and being your advocate and working with you in terms of anything that we can do to slow down what looks like the progression of Houston to Dallas through Grimes County. As a county judge for 20 years in Austin County, we faced some of these same concerns that you did. We had the Trans-Texas Corridor, which was also part of your deal, but we actually organized meetings. We had grassroots meetings like this. We went in, and I don't know if Mary is here or not, but I talked to a few of your people on the phone and said, we found every historic cemetery, we found every marker, everything that we could, and we built wetlands, we built all the issues so that we would have a case to present to TxDOT on why we were not the right place for this stuff to cut through. Obviously, we need infrastructure. We know there's growth that's necessary, but it needs to be growth in corridors that exist, and it needs to be value compensated if and when the eminent domain takes place. We had Centerpoint come through the transmission lines. Same thing. We held meetings at the fairgrounds. We organized our groups. We had the same type of thing, question answers. We were able to, at this time, no action. They've tabled it. The administrative code has taken it away for right now. That's not to say those issues aren't going to come back again. But as a county judge for 20 years, working with local government, a wife, 40 years, a mother, grandmother, I'm the daughter of Antone and Georgie Cherney. Anybody that's bought farm equipment from Seeley Tractor might know my daddy, Antone Cherney. And there's a Seeley boy sitting back there, so he's grinning. He knows Antone. And and I do have some roots here. The Bussey family's part of them here. So we have some local connections here with your county. I feel like my experience walking the halls, being available as a representative of the people in the county. Your county government is your grassroots. You're gonna, and also, congratulations to the Rattlers. We watched the football game and we sweated and we cried and we sweated. And I texted Coach Theodore right after the game and I said, way to go. And the next morning I got a text right back from him. How awesome is that to have that kind of community spirit? I'm so proud of the Rattlers. Of course, they skunked Seeley. That's the way it goes, Our turn will come one day. But you have a community. You have a spirit. You have a lot to be proud of. And I will be here to work with you. And obviously, I live in Seeley. I was born in the Belleville Hospital. I am a native Texan. I really care. I have my cemetery lots bought. I worked as the church cemetery secretary when I was going to Blaine College.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. So, respectfully, I ask for your vote. I'm looking forward to the questions. My husband Joe's back there. On my flyers, which I hope some of you have gotten some mail outs, my cell number is on there, my website, my Facebook, and please talk to me. Thank you.
As state representative to secure Prop 1 funding to improve the infrastructure in Grimes County. Carolyn Bilski.
Well, as you know, this is a special election, and I know I got to talk fast because this is very limited time. We will not have a state representative next week when the session starts. And if this becomes a runoff and y'all and the other 6 counties can't decide on one candidate, you won't have a voice for a long time because a runoff will drag it on and on and on. So what can I say I could do? I'm going to tell you quickly what I told at the other group so they've heard it. It's kind of like a little girl asking her daddy if all fairy tales start with once upon a time. No, some fairy tales start with if I'm elected. I can't promise you something I don't know about. All I can tell you is that when I get there, every issue that comes up will be treated with the greatest sincerity and importance, and I'll rely on you, community meetings like this, Republican meetings, to come back and hear your feedback. That's what I can promise you tonight, is you will have an active voice. Prop 1 has lots of pieces to it. For us not to go and say we're going to file a bill, that I'm going to author a bill today, I have to look at the legislation that's already been pre-filed and work toward whatever deadlines we might still have to do. I will do my best to work with you on all bills.
Thank you. What would you do as state representative to secure Prop 1 funding to improve the infrastructure in Grimes County?
I will fight any diversion of funds. We have a real issue with our state legislature. They get lots of money in there and they have it designated, but they do not always spend it where it was appropriated for. And I will fight that from the back mic if I have to filibuster. I will do it because I think that's wrong. One of the reasons you send us up there is to make sure that whatever decisions are made, the money that you have invested as tax dollars into our government is used appropriately. And I will definitely be one of those people who fights for your best interest, because tell me, how many of you in here, if you're fighting over water or roads or anything else, doesn't it affect all your neighbors? Well, that's how I feel about it. It's the same as if it was my own issue. So I'm going to go up there and fight like it's mine to make sure that you get to keep what's yours and that our roads are taken care of in this area.
Texas is growing, as we all know. By 2060, the population of Texas is going to increase by 82%. Vital infrastructure is necessary to our growth and our economic development, our continued economic development and growth. What we have to do is, we have to make sure that our funding are prioritized. One way that we can do that, TxDOT's saying they need $5 billion per year to just keep up our current roads. Well, one way that we need to do that, as we've talked about earlier, is making sure designated funds go to where they're designated. One of the things that's an issue, Senator Schwertner filed a bill called the Truth in Taxation Bill. And what it does is, it says gas tax money must go to infrastructure and to roads. The Texas Association of Business has said that one change alone will create $700 million per year for roads. That's just one solution. So the dedicated funds need to go where they are, but second of all, we have to maintain our fiscal conservancy and make sure that we are prioritizing our spending, because there's never enough to go around, but infrastructure doesn't need to be at the very top of our list. Thank you.
What is the most pressing issue for our district as you see it? So it would be District 13. What is the most pressing issue as you see it?
Right now, protecting our property rights is the #1 issue, because it's not just happening in Grimes County, it's happening in every county. And it doesn't just happen for transmission lines and bullet trains and tollways. It also happens for pipelines and other structures that we now know the Supreme Court will hold up a better use clause so that somebody can take your property by eminent domain, even if it's a company instead of a public entity, because that was how the law was interpreted by the Supreme Court. We need to fight that here in Texas. Just because they think it's okay in DC, we've seen a lot of things they think are okay in DC, and I don't think that's one of them. So we're going to protect property rights #1 in this district. We're going to work on water infrastructure, we're going to work on road infrastructure, we're going to improve our schools, and we are going to do it by not spending every dime that comes in. And I think that's important.
Rural Texas. This is a very special part of Texas, but I'm very blessed to live here and call this home. One of the things that we do here is we do things differently in rural Texas than they do in urban areas. I am not saying this is urban versus rural, but we have to have a strong voice for rural Texas. My #1 job as state representative for District 13 is to protect our way of life. One of those things is making sure our rural health care is funded, equipped, and trained. We need to recruit good doctors to come back to rural areas to serve our population. We need to protect our private property rights. We need to protect our Second Amendment rights. But the main goal is to keep rural Texas strong and be a voice for all what's important to us here in rural Texas. That's what we're going to do first off.
One thing, quality of life sort of takes in everything, because quality of life takes in your water supply, it takes in your road infrastructure, it takes in your property rights, and those are all going to be filed under different bills with different amendments and with different things added at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. If you've ever participated in the legislative session, you will understand that the most important thing that I can do for you is be attentive, read, research, watch the details, and take and prioritize calling back home to you, to the experts in certain fields that can answer questions on those. You have a groundwater district that's part of the Austin County Groundwater District with Blue Bonnet. If there are issues that affect that, you're the folks that we need to talk to. Talking to your commissioner's court on things that affect eminent domain, and whatever participation that TxDOT might try to get out of you for some of your local contributions, as they do, whether it be a pass-through toll or whether it be this or whether it be that. You know, toll roads are going to be something you're going to have to deal with, and I'll be there to help protect your quality of life.
Thoughts on Speaker Strauss?
Wow, that is an interesting question. How many of you have actually been to the Capitol and watched the consensus that Speaker Strauss tries to build? Good, somebody has. There is some effort to protect the consensus, There is also a debate. Believe it or not, we won't be there to make any decisions and vote on that because January 13th, we're still going to be running as candidates till 7 p.m. for that job. I think he has built consensus. I know the legislators, Marcia Farney, Kyle Cassell, who is your neighbor right here, Phil Stevenson, who are very close friends of mine, all say that he actually encourages all reps to vote your district and be part of your district. So I want to be a team player. I want to also be the question and the detailed person that says, why are we playing on this team, and ask those questions. What are my details on him and his specific behavior? All I can tell you is he has been a consensus builder, and he encourages you to vote your district.
Interesting about these special elections is we're not, as Judge said, we're not going to actually be in to have a vote on this speaker situation. But this is what I've been telling people. I look for two things in a speaker. One is who's going to be the most fiscally conservative person. I own a small business. That's very important in my heart. That's how we keep the economy moving, is through small business. Second of all, I look for someone who will put the interest of Texas ahead of their own. That is the key to being Speaker of the House, being a leader, is putting your interests behind the interests of Texas. That's what we're looking for in a speaker.
Twice, here's the third time, we don't get to vote on this. But whoever that speaker is, I am going to work with them. Because if I don't work with them, I'm not doing the best possible job I can do for you as your House rep. I want to make sure that I get the good committee assignments. I want to make sure that my voice is heard on issues that affect our district. And the only way to do that is to walk in there open-minded, and whoever wins this race on the 13th in the speaker's race, that whoever that is, I, winning on the 13th at night, will absolutely work with that person. Because we cannot have bad representation just because we're obstinate. I don't know who's going to win, but I can tell you that both men that are running right now have good credentials. One's been there a while, one of them's been there a very short period of time. You know, you never know till you get there. Somebody, the third person might show up. So I want to work with whoever.
You will answer this question first. What does being pro-life mean to you? And when did you begin to think of yourself as pro-life?
Pro-life is very near and dear to me. One of the tragedies I think we've seen since the 1970s, over 46 million abortions. 46 million abortions since the 1970s. That is a tragedy. We have to look at life as a gift. This is what I think about pro-life issues. We have a duty and an obligation to protect innocent life that cannot protect itself, period. I believe life begins at fertilization, and we have to protect that life in order to save that gift, instead of letting it go as a tragedy again and be another one of those 46 million abortions.
I'm Jewish, and all life takes precedent over any other issue. It's really kind of funny. My husband's Catholic. He is very pro-life. I'm very pro-life. But you know what? I've been pregnant 6 times and only have 3 kids. And I know that it's a life until it's not, but it was God's decision to take it. And that's how it should stay. But life isn't just about abortions and babies. It's also end-of-life issues, when they want to pull the plug and have the doctor make that decision instead of you, and I'll fight that every time.
I was the baby of 9, so I guess that tells you what our parents thought about life in the womb. And I have 3 children, and these are my grandchildren and my family that are on my little picture. And if a birth mom would not have made the right decision, 2 of my adopted grandchildren wouldn't be precious children to my cancer survivor, daughter-in-law, and son. So, yes, my pro-life is just been a lifelong thing. It's not something I've ever considered a political issue. I consider it a value system, and that is very important to me. I feel like from the womb to the grave is critical. My grandmother's lived to be 95. We had a doctor that put Grandma Bilski on dialysis, and if he would have had any mandate that you're going to have the duty to die issue, Grandma wouldn't have lived and seen 3 of her granddaughters get married. So you know where my heart is. My heart is pro-life. I have personal experience.
And to continue Lois Colcourt's tradition of satellite meetings in the counties you will represent? If no, how do you plan to stay attuned to the concerns of your constituents?
This is really easy. You are the only county that's not in SD 18. For the last 5 years, I have held quarterly meetings in SD 18 for the entire district and moved it around the district so it's close to somebody all the time. So it's not always the same people have to drive so far. I will continue to do that because I think it's important to bring issue-based speakers to you. I think it's important for me to get back with you. And when I'm representing you on the State Republican Executive Committee, I vote your vote. I have gone in there several times where I called home and I said, look, I'm not liking what's going on up here. What do you think? And I have voted the way my district wants. You are going to be part of HD 13 just like I am. And I want to vote our district perfectly well. And I want to do that by staying in touch with you, by sending out a newsletter in between those satellite meetings, which will happen quarterly.
So Lois's pattern, she had her liaison come into each county once a month. She had meetings scheduled. It was usually a little press release, a little bit either on the news or on the radio or on the TV. And I certainly believe that it's very important that if I myself can't be in the district, in your county, at least once that month. Now, if you have a chamber parade, a picnic, a festival, Joe and I, we like to eat, as you can tell, we're pretty healthy looking people, and we'll be here whatever you invite us to, and we'll be there to sit, listen, and hear your concerns. But I can also tell you, yes, I will have a legislative staff member that will be available to continue that once a month meeting in whatever location I can book to have those.
The goal of a public servant is to serve the people. I said earlier, I don't have a voice in Austin except yours. The only way to do that is what we've been doing this whole campaign, being in every county multiple times, sitting down face to face, talking with you, talking about the issues and figuring out how we can make District 13 better. That only continues. You're not electing me to become an Austin insider, and I'm not going to become an Austin insider. I live here, I work here. District 13 is my home and my life. And I will enjoy sitting down and talking with you personally, talking about the issues, discussing what we need to do. And I guarantee that we will continue to do that. You're not going to be able to shake me loose once you send me to Austin, okay? I'm going to be back here talking with you and asking you questions. And don't be surprised if I call and say, this has come across the desk. I need your help to figure this out for District 13.
Toll roads and transmission. So in the essence of time, what I'd like to do is read the questions, give each of you 2 minutes to make your thoughts and your responses. If you like, do you need a paper or something to write on or make notes?
If we're going to have that much, probably.
Going on in Grimes County, possible power lines, high-speed rail, tow load, and a possible lake. How do you propose to represent Grimes County, recognizing you represent other counties as well in Austin? That's one question. Do you see alternatives to adding transmission lines in Texas? That's another question. What is your position on the proposed high-speed rail project that will go through the length of Grimes County? And will it ultimately default and become the financial responsibility of Texas taxpayers?
What was the first name? When you said, what is your proposed what?
What is your position on the proposal
Okay, what's the
of high-speed rail?
Okay.
And there's a very simple question to all candidates, yes or no, are you in favor of high-speed rail? How do you feel about toll roads? Can you stop the fat cats from taking our land? I think that fits into this. What is your position on the proposed high-voltage transmission line that will require many 100 acres of Grimes County land and negatively affect Grimes County with no benefit to Grimes County? What is your position on the proposed high-speed rail project that will go through? We've already had that. And then the SH State Highway 249 toll road project is currently proposed for Grimes County. What is your position on toll roads? If you are against toll roads, what would you do as a state representative to stop or address this project? Are you all comfortable with those questions?
I don't like toll roads, period. Honestly, we're supposed to be budgeting for roads. That's what TxDOT's supposed to be helping us do. Tell us how much it's going to cost. Don't just allocate money to maintain. Make sure you build into the budget growth. And that's something that I will push for. Toll roads, when they're built, you hear people say, oh, we're gonna need them, or we have to have them. Well, we went for a century without them, okay? So it's not like we have to have them. If they build them, they always promise you what? They're gonna give it back when it's paid for. Well, you know what they do? They extend the loan, and it's never paid for. And that's their trick that they use. I don't like toll roads because they never have an end. I also really am gonna fight this bullet train. I've seen what they've done with that wonderful little train in Houston that has 5 people on it during the day and maybe 16 people on it during rush hour. It has run into police cars, it has run into people, and think about how fast this train's gonna be going. What if it derails here? Okay? Roads and that train will take money out of your tax base. And guess who gets to make that up? Every one of you that's a property owner.
30 seconds.
I don't want your property rights to be injured. The transmission lines, the only thing I can say about them is at least you will be getting property tax from them. They will have to do that. I don't like the fact that they didn't plan ahead, and I don't like that the federal government will not let Houston build a power plant close to it. But we have to attack this from the correct sources, and that would be the Public Utilities Commission and the people who are willing to build those power plants.
Carolyn Bilski.
Are driven. We have a son that lives in Clear Lake, and we get on that toll road when the road's backing up, because you know what? Sometimes it's better to pay and get where you need to go. I think there should always be a free way to get any place you need to go in the state of Texas. I would totally oppose all roads ever being tolled. I do believe there is a place if we're going to have infrastructure, because if we don't have some toll roads, we're not going to have the right structure. People can pay, you can drive on the feeder, you can stay for free, or you can get on and go 75 miles an hour. That's going to be your choice. I am against the bullet train, totally. I feel like that is a pie in the sky thing that is way before its time. I read the article that was put in there, and there were several really good footnotes and quotes that your new judge has put in there. He's done a lot of homework on that. I followed that in the newspaper. So I know there is no reason for that. But as a state representative, our position would be working with those local agencies, whether it be the ERCOT, the PUC for reliability. Y'all kind of got stuck with the Hurricane Ike. You had lots of outages here. You had things going on that your legislature can be available and hands-on to help you with. But I can tell you right now, your private property rights are very important. Eminent domain is a big word that you need to pay attention to. You need to be on top of things. You know, we've lived in such a great place for so long, we've become very complacent. The good thing about it is we now are engaged, we have good citizens. Parking lot's full. How wonderful to have so many of you here to listen and learn and understand what your rights are as a citizen. So you do have rights, you do have a voice, and I will work with you to represent your voice in the state legislature. Thank you.
One of the things that's very important here is we have to have infrastructure. But we should not, in rural Texas, be sacrificed for our state leaders refusing to make the hard decisions on infrastructure funding and planning. Now, I am not against public-private partnerships. Matter of fact, I think the government has a lot to learn from how free market operates. But the numbers have to add up. If you have to have this partnership and it has to involve public money to work, that's not a good business plan. Second of all, let's talk about the high-speed rail. I actually looked up a study by the Reason Foundation in 2013, and what it did was it compared high-speed lines in Europe, Asia, to the potential of them here in the United States. This is what they found. Of all the high-speed rails in the entire world, how many do you think are operative on a profitable basis? Two. Second of all, it says you've got to have 6 to 9 million riders per year to make it profitable, and the majority of them rely on government subsidies. That doesn't sound real great to me, does it? But let's compare it to the one rail that we want to look at in the United States, the Acela line, which is in the Northeast Corridor. I've actually ridden on this before. What it does is, it's in the very populated Northeast Corridor. How many riders do you think it has per year? 3.4 million. And you gotta have 6 to 9 to make it profitable, and that's in the most populated area of the United States of America. It's not gonna work. This reeks of Trans-Texas Corridor from left to right. And this is how we beat Trans-Texas Corridor. One representative cannot finish that battle. I alone cannot win Trans-Texas Corridor. I have to have you, we have to stand with Senator Schwartner, and I have to have the grassroots level. It's not a one-man show. The only way to beat this is for us to rally the forces, circle the wagons, and beat it like we did last time. And that's what we're going to do.
Yes, you know, when you talk about the transmission lines, you know, we have all these natural gas plants that are having to shut down that actually provided electricity and did a lot of energy things. And there again, that's a federal government mandate to start shutting things down. And I really hope and pray we can get more focused on our local control statewide instead of always just having to be sucked into everything with the federal government.
State Representative, District 13.
I thought you were going to ask me to sing there for a second or show talent of some sort. I'm not a singer, ask my wife. Once again, we are born and raised in the district. We're a product of District 13. And when I had the opportunity, I moved back home and started a small town law firm because we need to reinvest in our communities. That's why we're doing this as well. I believe we have an obligation to give back to our communities. That's why I'm past president of the Rotary Club, secretary of the Lions Club. This is another extension of me being able to help District 13 that I love move us forward and make us even better. But I can't do that without you. I especially can't do it without your vote now and on the 13th. But even after we're elected, I need your help to make District 13 better. I hope I can count on it.
I'm representing a large part of Texas at the Republican Party level. I will do equally as well representing you with everything I know about this district. I moved out here in '97, but I have been a true Texan since '82 when I moved here. I've lived in smaller places, so I know what it's like and how important it is. I want you to know that I will use my educational background to fight these issues on a science basis. I will tell you that I am the only candidate in this race that has not worked in a bureaucracy or held public office. I am the grassroots person that you need to represent you. I am one of you, and I would appreciate your vote.
To go ahead and say that as a prior government leader, as a county judge, as a grassroots leader working with you, my experience in reducing waste, doing a balanced budget, are qualities that I can take to the State House. My relationships with the people that are already there in the State House, knowing the organizations. We built grants. We got grants for Austin County for e-waste, household hazardous. I have lots of opportunity to bring some of those same quality of life things back to you through your councils of government and others. So I believe my experience and my demonstrated leadership will help me be your voice, be a stronger voice for you. And thank you, and have a safe trip home. I don't think any of us emphasize the fact how important your voice is, how important your vote is. This is your House district, and if you don't take that time to go vote, you've lost that opportunity to participate in who you put in there to work for you in Austin. I am a hard worker. I'm detail honest. I'm honest to the fault. I just had a guy tell me about my dad, how honest and decent my dad was in dealing with him with farm equipment. What an honor to know that Anton Cherney raised me, and I have that same honesty and same integrity.
When you were speaking on transmission lines, you were talking about how the government has shut down some of the plants already. So what will you do to stop that?
Well, obviously that is working with our federal legislators to get involved and work with McCall, Cruz, and Cornyn on those issues. And I know all of them. I've been to Washington not as a bureaucrat worker, but as a grassroots person knocking on doors saying, hey, we have a problem and we need to. I'm really good friends with Kevin Brady. I'm good friends with John Carter. I've got lots of federal support that I can go to and lean to help get things done.
One of the things that's very important to us is limited government, reducing the role of government in our life. The second thing we want to do is make sure that when government decisions are made, they're made at the most local level possible. One of the things that's very important to us is water. In Burleson County, where I'm from, San Antonio Water Supply has inked the biggest transfer of water in the history of Texas, going from Burleson County to San Antonio. The only thing that's keeping that in check is our local groundwater district. They have the test wells all over the county that say if the water level gets too low, they can say, cut off the water that's going to San Antonio because we need it here. That's a great example of why we need the local control of not only maintaining our natural resources, but in general. So that's one of the things we definitely want to look at.
State party and then into the legislature. And two of our members of that little beginning group went all over the United States fighting it, finding out that none of the states around us would even continue those roads, and neither would Mexico. So it was like, it was the biggest boondoggle and the biggest land grab they could ever try. Now